Hey guys, David Stewart here. I don't make that many video follow-ups, but I'm going to make a follow-up to a video I made a while back called What's the Difference Between a Classical and a Flamenco Guitar? In that video, I gave a bunch of criteria for how you could tell if any given guitar was a classical guitar or a flamenco guitar, and that particular video has had a lot of comments and criticism on it about one particular thing I noted on my flamenco guitar, and indeed most flamenco guitars that I have played, which is that it has a spruce top. Um, People are very quick to point out that there are flamenco guitars out there with a cedar top, which is true. But my point, whenever I'm making a video to help you categorize something, I'm going to be using the standard and not all the exceptions. Because if you bring in all the exceptions into a definition, you're not going to end up with a definition at all. So, spruce as a top for flamenco guitars is far more common than cedar, and I would say so common that most of the people who are going to watch this video and maybe walk into a guitar center or walk into your average guitar shop that's maybe not a super rare boutique kind of guitar shop, you will probably never see a flamenco guitar with a cedar top, an actual flamenco guitar. You can take a cedar top guitar and set it up to play flamenco, and it can be a decent flamenco guitar. But as far as a maker starting with a guitar that I'm going to make a flamenco guitar and it ends up as a cedar top flamenco, they're actually really, really rare. Most modern makers don't really use cedar tops, and that's because the player base doesn't really like cedar tops in flamenco. They like spruce. Spruce is a little stiffer, a little more resilient. It opens up more when you practice on it, so the sound kind of evolves as you grow. And a cedar top guitar doesn't do that. It does it, but not quite as much as spruce. Cedar's a softer wood, which a lot of people, I don't think this is necessarily true, but a lot of players are afraid that they're going to like break the top of their cedar top guitar. Whereas I have a spruce top flamenco and I have broken the top of it. So spruce can be delicate. The real thing when it comes to identifying a flamenco guitar, it's more than just the spruce top. Everyone's focusing on the spruce top for some reason. You can have a top of something other than cedar or spruce. There's redwood topped guitars out there, and koa and all kinds of other odd woods that each have their own tonal characteristics. I'm talking about what the standard is. You're going to look for low action on the right hand especially, and low action on the left hand. You're going to look, that's going to end up with kind of like a neck offset that's a little different than a classical. You're going to look for a lighter guitar. I don't think I mentioned this in the first video, but flamenco guitars are generally a little lighter in terms of weight. My flamenco negra, which is heavier than an average flamenco, is still much, much lighter than my classical. My classical is a beast. It's very heavy. And that's because that lightness to the sound box gives it a little more raspy, trebly, and punchy sound. Moreover, like how the guitar is braced is going to change the way it sounds. So flamenco guitars, people who are making flamenco guitars tend to brace their flamencos a little bit differently than they might brace their classicals, but you're not going to be looking inside a guitar very much with the camera to kind of see what the bracing is. You're going to go by feel, by look, and by sound. So if it has a golpe, that's a big one. You could put a golpe on a classical, and it could be a classical with a golpe just to protect the top. I think Elliot Fisk, last time I saw him play, he had a golpeador on top of his guitar just to protect it. But it was definitely not a flamenco guitar. The easiest way to tell is, does it sound like a flamenco guitar? That's such a broad category. I'm trying to bring it down and make a really simple definition. So I say it's probably going to have a spruce top. It could have a cedar, but it's probably going to have a spruce top. If the back and sides are a white colored wood called cypress, you're probably looking at a flamenco guitar, specifically a what's called a flamenco blanca. There are classical guitars from from yore made out of cypress. I think Torres made a number of classical guitars out of cypress, but it's one of those things you're not really going to see classical guitars made out of cypress. So you go to Guitar Center, you pick up a nice white Cordoba. It's going to have cypress back and sides, or something similar, and it's going to have a spruce top. It's going to have a golpeador, which is that plastic tap guard on the top of the guitar. It's going to have hopefully low action, although a lot of factory guitars do not have low action, which I explained in the other video. And it's going to have a nice, bright, punchy sound that's going to be appropriate for flamenco. So all those things are what's going to define it. I made an analogy to one of the comments that I think is accurate, because we're talking about something with a high amount of variability. Flamenco players in the past, like decades ago, they played on whatever was available. If it was a classical guitar and it had the sound and feel they wanted, they played on a classical guitar. They didn't worry about these definitions. It's only now that we really seek to like bring these definitions down and make them something real and really think about what makes a flamenco guitar a flamenco guitar. Old flamenco players didn't really think that way. They played guitars that they thought sounded right and worked for them and didn't worry about the definition so much. In fact, my teacher Juan Serrano said, there is no practical difference between a flamenco and a classical guitar. The difference is all in what you want to do with it. And that was really true. He didn't play like flamenco specific strings, and he didn't play guitars that were set up in a way a lot of flamenco guitars are set up, but he played flamenco on them and it sounded correct. By the way he played and the tone that he sought out when he bought his guitars, it sounded correct. And by the way, somebody said that Juan Serrano played cedar-topped guitars. I never saw him play one when I was a student of his. That doesn't mean he didn't. But certainly when I was a student of his, he only played spruce-topped guitars. That's all I saw him play. So that's where I get the part of where I get the spruce from. That, and he said, most flamenco guitars have a spruce top. So I'm kind of getting it from the whole scene, not just like I didn't just conjure the spruce top out of the abyss. So it's traditionally you use a spruce top, and you can use cedar, but most people don't. And like I said, you're not going to find that much cedar. Anyway, here's the analogy. Like, imagine I'm teaching a biology class, and I'm talking, or a zoology class, let's make it zoology, and I'm talking about deer. And so I say, besides the obvious differences between male and female deer, that is their genitals, there's also secondary sex characteristics. A male deer will be larger in the shoulders and more muscular and have a larger head. And during the mating season, during the fall, it will also have antlers. And you have a student that's like, you know what, some male deers don't velvet, and they don't produce antlers in the fall. Sometimes some male deers don't have antlers. They don't end up growing the antlers for whatever reason. And I say, yes, that's true. Some male deers don't grow antlers. But if you're out there and you're looking and you see a deer without antlers and you can't really get close enough to see other things that make the sex obvious, you're probably looking at a doe. I don't think you can say that you're looking at a doe because sometimes male deer do not have antlers. It's like, well, I'm trying to make a general definition. The male deer have antlers during the rut. It's like, well, I think it's very responsible that you would say that male deer have antlers in the rut when occasionally they do not. It's like, whenever it's the same thing with zoology as it is with music. Whenever you're trying to define something with a high amount of variability, you're trying to go with what the standard is, not the exceptions. So if you're going to create a standard of a music genre like metal, you're going to talk about distorted guitar and double bass drumming and stuff like that. You're not going to talk about like what a power ballad sounds like, because that's the exception, that's not the rule. So anyway, that's my response to that. What is a flamenco guitar? Well, it's a guitar you play flamenco on. More than that, you should probably have a top protector on your guitar if you're going to play flamenco with it. And that is the best advice that I can give. No, you do not have to buy a specific flamenco guitar to play flamenco. You can practice on your classical, but I do recommend a top guard. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and harass me about any kind of weird random factoids that I don't happen to drop in a particular video. I'm always happy to respond to those, and I'm always happy to see the comments, even the people who think I'm a total jerk or I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. So yeah, thanks, and have a great night.